Hi, and welcome to session 2 of our virtual 2-minute beach school. How have you been since we last saw you? Good, I'm glad that you've been okay. Today it's a glorious day on the beach. You can see the sunshine, you can see the blue sky. We've had some really wet and windy weather down here in North Cornwall, which has impacted upon what we've been able to find on the beaches, but more about that later on in the session. How are you, Claire?
I'm really good, thanks, Helen. I've been doing loads of beach cleaning since our last lesson.
That's brilliant. And I have been looking at your pictures. I really love the pictures that you've been sending in. There's one in particular here where to me it's the colours that really stand out. So thank you for sending this in.
And I really like this one because I think it really shows off a brilliant beach.
And how are you doing with our poster competition? Don't forget, design your poster, stick it in your window, inspire your neighbours to do either a 2-minute street clean or a 2-minute beach clean. Then send us those pictures of the posters. We would really love to see them. So, what are we going to be doing in our lesson today? Today we're going to be identifying that lots of things are made from plastic. The first thing that we're going to be doing is identifying those things that are plastic that we've been in contact with today. The second thing that we're going to be doing is following the journey of our plastics. The third thing that we're going to be doing is actually seeing what happens to those plastics in the sea. And then we're going to be thinking of a solution. Let's head back over to Claire.
Thanks, Helen. Right, guys, I'm going to start you off today thinking about plastic. And this is a little exercise that's going to need you to use your brains. You're also going to need your pencil or pen and some paper. So, the first thing I want you to do is think about, since you woke up this morning, what have you touched or used that was made of plastic? Now, if you're watching this lesson with a friend or a family member, you can work together if you like, that's fine. Helen's going to be having a go. We're going to have 30 seconds to write down as much as you can of the things that you've used that were plastic. Shall we go? Ready? All right, let's go. So, I woke up and I turned off my alarm clock. That's made of plastic. And then I went outside and I made a cup of tea. So I would have used my kettle. And the milk pot, of course, that was for my tea. The milk bottle. Then what did I do? I really can't remember. I walked my dog. His lead and collar are made of plastic. And so also are his toys. And we played for a while in the beach. So, because obviously I always come to the beach. Right, well, time's up. I haven't got many down in that 30 seconds. How are you getting on at home? Let's see how many Helen's got. Wow, she seems to have loads more than I have. So let's think about this. Once I woke up, I made some breakfast. I haven't got my breakfast bits down. And then I did go for the dog walk. I've remembered that. And then I got dressed, of course. I haven't done those bits. And I haven't done anything about packing up for the day. I think I need another 30 seconds. What about you? All right, let's start again. Another 30 seconds. Keep on going, guys. Right, so I packed my bag and in there is a pencil case. That's made of plastic. I also made my black pack lunch. That's definitely made of plastic. What else? I had my breakfast. That was cereal and a yogurt, and they've both got plastic on them as well. Then I walked here. What did I have to do to walk here? I suppose I opened my front door. My front door's made of plastic, actually. And I turned off the lights, and the light switch is plastic. Then I put on my wellies and of course my jacket here. And I've just thought this pen is made of plastic. As is this board. Okay, how are we doing for time? I think we've got a couple of seconds left. Last thing. My litter picker. Great, time's up, guys. That was another 30 seconds there. How are we getting on? Helen, how are you doing?
Wow, so many. I think I've got about 30 on this list. That's amazing.
Amazing. Yeah, I think I've got about that many too, at least that many. Isn't that mad that I've only been awake for about 3 hours and I've already used that many plastic things? That is bonkers. Anyway, hold on to these lists. We're going to be using them again a little bit later on, but for now, let's get back to the lesson.
Thanks, Claire. I've just been in my head adding to those lists so many things. In this part of the session, what we're going to be looking at is how those things that you use at home, the plastic bottle, bag for your sandwiches, how they end up from your home through to our classroom here on the beach. I wonder how that happens. So I'm going to give you 30 seconds and I want you to have a think about that And in that 30 seconds, you can either jot it down, how you think it gets to this classroom, or draw a little sketch. If you're not sure how those things come from your house to get into our classroom, don't worry, I've enlisted some help. Let's go and find Claire out on the beach.
Okay, I'm going to draw a picture of the sun because I know that that's what helps the rivers flow. And then there's going to be a cloud, so we'll put a nice cloud in. Now we're going to have a mountain with a river, and that river is going to run here to the beach. And in that river is going to be some plastic that goes all the way down and ends up right here, and I'm going to use this little stone to signify some rubbish.
Thanks, Claire. How did you get on with that at home? That's really good. So far we've had lots of different 30-second activities. I wonder why we've had all those 30-second activities and what that actually means. Do you know? If you don't, that's absolutely fine. I'm wondering if anybody here knows.
I can help with that one because there are 4 lots of 30 seconds in 2 minutes, and we know that 2 minutes is enough to change the world.
Brilliant. Did you get that at home? We're going to have a think now about how plastic moves, and we're going to do an experiment with 4 different things. It's an experiment that you can then try at home at some point after this session.
Right guys, so we've got a little experiment here that you can try at home in just a moment. I brought some objects from home with me, some really normal things, and I've got a bucket of water, and we're going to see whether they're going to float or whether they're going to sink. Let's start with my trusty old toothbrush. What do you reckon? Do you think it's going to float or sink? And it's floating. Why do we think that is? Because it's made of plastic. Let's try a pen. Now this is also made from plastic, so what do we think it's going to do? You got it, it's going to float. We've got a sandwich bag here. This was from my lunch yesterday, and once again that's also floating. And the last one, a little bit more tricky, is a bottle. Now what do you think that one's going to do? It's going to float. However, what do you think might happen if we fill it with water? Eventually it's going to sink, and that's why we actually don't find that many bottles on the beach, because as soon as their tops have come off, the bottles go out to the ocean and they get filled with water and sink to the ground. So I'd be really interested if you guys could do this at home too. Find 4 objects, all the ones that can't be damaged, and have a go.
Wow, doesn't that look fun, that experiment that Claire's been up to? You could try this at home. Don't forget, please do ask permission. Next time you've got a sink full of water or a bucket full of water or a bath full of water, you then might be able to work out what sinks and what floats. There's directions on our website. You can then complete a chart. There's one here that you can look at, also one that you can download. And in there you can tick off what items you've got and whether it sinks or floats. So challenge yourself to see if you can work out how those things actually go from your house into the sea. So how much plastic actually goes into the sea? They're saying that it's about 8 million tonnes a year. Wow, I can't even imagine that number. How does that happen? Let's see how that experiment that we've just done can help us. Let's think about the plastic bag. Did it sink or did it float? So that floated. We've put that plastic bag in the bin. And then the wind comes and the rain comes and it takes it out the bin and it takes it all the way then to our classroom here. Have a see if you can work out with any of the other things now how they might get here. Some people just put their rubbish on the floor, they don't even put it in the bin. So then it ends up here in our classroom. Claire, perhaps you can do a quick recap about how rubbish ends up here in our classroom.
Absolutely, Helen. So it's the wind, the weather, or people that send plastics into the rivers, which end up on our beaches. But is there another way?
So that's how plastic can escape from the land. But plastic can also be dumped at sea. I wonder, is it plastic escaping from the land, or is it plastic being dumped at sea that creates the most plastic in our oceans? If you think that it's plastic escaping from the land that creates the most problems, pop up your right hand. If you think that it's plastic being dumped at sea creates the most plastic waste, pop up your left hand. What did you decide at home? If you've got your right hand up, you were right. Well done. So now we've discovered what happens to some plastics and how they get to the sea, let's head back over to Claire for the next section.
Thanks, Helen. So yes, I thought we'd have fun doing a little experiment, but before we do, it's important you understand a little bit about rivers. So how do rivers form? What happens is large bodies of water like the ocean evaporate, and that causes clouds. Those clouds then move on land and it rains. And when it rains, the puddles, the little lakes, the little streams all fill up and flow to join up into the rivers, and the rivers flow to the ocean. Now it's important to realise that rivers only ever flow in one direction. They'll only ever come to the sea. They never go away from the sea. But how does this all relate back to plastics?
Well, Claire, we've just been telling the children all about the wind and the rain and how that moves the plastics into the rivers.
Oh, exactly. So if we know that the wind and the rain can cause things to come from the puddles into the streams, and the streams go into the rivers then come to the sea and the beach gets covered in plastic. That makes total sense.
It'd be great to learn more about this, perhaps when you come and see us in the summer.
So on to the experiment. I have got a bright plastic ball here. In fact, I've got two. We're going to put these in the river and see where they go. Let's go.
Claire is running up the beach, where she's going to show us what happens to this ball. Can you see how fast the water is flowing? Why do you think that might be? Here's a clue. In the summer, it normally runs slower and is smaller. What's the difference between summer and winter? The amount of rain, that's right. After lots of rain, the rivers are swollen, which means bigger, and flow really fast. It looks like Claire's found a good spot.
Right, so I'm going to drop the balls in here and let's see where they go. There we go. Proof, guys, that anything that goes into the river will end up here on our beaches. Wasn't that fun? Okay, let's get back to the classroom, and I'm going to come with you for this part.
So last week we talked about how plastics never totally biodegrade, but actually just break down into smaller and smaller pieces.
Exactly, Helen. And those smaller and smaller pieces end up looking like this, and we call them microplastics.
So can you explain, Claire, how these micros occur?
Absolutely. So if you think of those plastic products that you use at home, maybe a plastic milk bottle, plastic hairbrush, eventually, as we learnt earlier, they might end up in the rivers, and all the rivers end up at the beaches here. Now, some of those objects are picked up by litter pickers, those wonderful volunteers that come and pick up the rubbish, but some of those items end up in the ocean. And when they do, the salt water, the sea air, the cold temperatures, the sunshine, they all cause it to break down and turn up into these really small little bits, which then end up back on our beaches.
And it's really important that we try and remove as many of these as possible from our classroom. Let's have a little look at this bit here. What does that actually look like? Yes, you're right, it looks like animal food.
Exactly. So what's happening is that animals like fish and birds and anything else really are mistaking it for their food. They're eating it and they're actually getting a little bit poorly. Should we go see if we can pick some up? So there are a few different ways to collect micros from the beach, but my favourite way is using a sieve, and Helen is going to show us how in just a mo. All you need to do is grab a handful of sand and pop it in your sieve and give it a little shake. Now if the sand is dry, the sand will come straight out the bottom, but as you can see it's a bit wet right now, so we need to find a little pool of water, lower it down to the water and give it a little shake in there, and what's going to happen is all of the sand is going to come out the bottom, leaving you in there with some microplastics. You might also get some bits of like twigs and leaves, they'll also stay in there, but that's all right. So if we have a look at Helen's at the moment, you'll see that in there is just a load of plastic. Isn't it mad? A minute ago, that was just a handful of sand, and now it's plastic. So you might be wondering what we do with these plastics when we take them off the beach. We can turn them into art. And last month, we created these really cool little Christmas tree decorations. So I made this one because I thought it looked like snow. And you might notice, those of you with good eyesight, that these balls look a little bit different. You might think they're different than some of the microplastics we've seen before, and you would be right. These are actually called a nurdle, and we're going to learn all about these in next lesson. But for the rest of this lesson, I'm heading back to the beach, so I'll see you in a mo.
Have you seen the micros when you've been to the beach? Let's have a little recap about what we've done so far today. We've identified things that are plastic, we've followed plastic to the sea, and now we're going to tell you all about what happens to that plastic in the sea. We're actually going to tell you about gyres, plastic garbage gyres. That's a bit of a strange word, isn't it? I wonder how you spell that. Let's have a look. Gyres. How do we spell that? I will sound it out. Let's see if we can have a try. Gyres. Gyres. G-Y-R-E-S. That's right. Very well done, Claire. How did you get on at home with that? Brilliant. Thanks, Claire. Can you see? Gyres. G-Y-R-E-S. I'm now going to hand over to Claire, and we're actually going to create and show you how a gyre works. So what we can see here is Claire's bucket of water, and she's got a whole range of plastic by the side. She's got a stick as well. I wonder what she'll be doing with that. Ah, yes, we can see that she's stirring the water with the stick. What does this create? Do you know? Yes, you've got it. She's creating a current, just like is found out at sea. Now she's going to move the bucket from side to side. She's going to grab hold of those handles and watch what's happening to the water. It's as if she's creating wind and waves to go alongside the current. So we've now got a bucket with water acting a little bit like the sea. Let's create our garbage patch. She's tipping in the plastics. Here she goes. And once she's tipped in her plastic, she's starting to stir. What do you think's going to happen? Can you work it out? We can now see that the plastics are moving to the centre of the gyre. Do you notice how the gyre is calmer and much more stable at the centre? The plastics can't escape from the moving current. We've created a small gyre here. Can you imagine with all the tons of plastic in the ocean? Can you remember how much we said it was earlier? Yes, you're right, 8 million tonnes per year. And the other problem is that as the 5 known garbage patches are out at sea, no one wants to take responsibility for cleaning them up and sorting them out. If you'd like to, why not set yourself a task later on to find out more information about these garbage patches?
So Helen, you told us all about the plastic gyres and how they work, but what are the problems with them?
So these plastic gyres, garbage gyres, what problems might they cause? I'm going to give you 30 seconds at home to have a little think, to see if you can come up with some problems that these might cause. Right, so what might happen? Do you know what? I think that the gyres might cause problems for birds and for animals. I'm thinking that fish might eat things from the plastic. And I'm wondering if they're whirling around these gyres. I'm kind of thinking perhaps things get trapped inside them. That could be another thing. That's your 30 seconds. Okay, so now we've got time for a little quiz. Let's just have a see about what we've learned so far. 6 questions, and there's going to be true or false. Are you ready? So our first question is, seabirds and animals eat plastic, true or false? Question number 2. Seabirds think plastic is plants, animals and other sea creatures, true or false? And then question number 3, plastic never fully biodegrades and breaks down. True or false?
Question 4. There are 5 known plastic gyres in the world so far. True or false? Question 5. There is currently more plastic than fish in the oceans. True or false? And lastly, question 6. Is it true or false that toxins are released from marine plastics? Are you ready for the answers? Here we go. Question 1 was seabirds and other creatures, do they eat plastics? They absolutely do. That's true. Well done if you got it right. Question 2, seabirds and other animals think that plastic is food? Absolutely true. They do. Question 3, this might ring some bells from last week. Does plastic ever truly break down or biodegrade? It does not. It's true. Well done.
So, question number 4. There are 5 plastic gyres known at the moment. Absolutely, yes there are. Question number 5. There's currently more plastic than fish in the ocean. Now that's a tricky one, but the answer currently is false. In years to come, there might be more plastic than fish in the ocean, but there isn't at this current time. And then question number 6. Marine plastics, do they release toxins? The answer is true. How did you get on at home? How many did you get? Did you get all 6? Brilliant if you did. Did you know that marine creatures can get so filled up with plastic that some of them can't actually survive? They get so tangled up in the plastic that they can't swim and move about. It makes me really very sad.
Now we've learnt loads so far today about plastics and the problems associated, but it's over to you to think about what we can do about it. Come on, let's go have a chat. Right guys, I'm here to finish off with you something that we started a little earlier on. Do you remember the lists I asked you to make of all the plastic things you'd used? I've got mine here. I'd like you to grab yours again. Helen, have you got yours?
Yep, I've got mine here too, Claire.
Fabulous. Right, what we're going to do is think about changing one of the things on these lists. Because we know here at the 2 Minute Foundation that if everybody made a little change, one little 2-minute solution, it adds up to having a massive impact. So, what I'm going to look at on here is something that I think I could do differently next time. For example, on here I've got pencil case. My pencil case is made of plastic. So what I'm going to do is next time I need to buy a new pencil case, make sure I buy one that's not made of plastic. That's a great solution. What about you, Helen?
One thing on my list is the shampoo bottle. So my solution is the next time that I run out of shampoo, I'm going to buy a bar instead of using a bottle.
We would love it if you would send us your solutions, your pledges. What are you going to do to reduce the plastic in your life? And perhaps we'll even read some of yours out in the next lesson. What a great time you've had on the beach today. I have loved telling you all about microplastics and showing you some experiments that you can try at home too. It's been great.
We've also taken part in a quiz. We've identified what plastics we use at home and how those plastics actually get to the sea.
If you've loved learning all about our beaches and the microplastic problem that we have here, why not go out and do your own 2-minute beach clean over the next few days? Or you could enter our poster competition. Helen's going to remind you all about it.
Good idea, Claire. Do you remember from last week? Design your poster, pop it in the window, take a photograph, send it to us. We'd love to see them. All about how you should care for the planet 2 minutes at a time. And the lucky winner gets to recreate their poster. It will hang here in our real beach school for everyone to see when you can all come to us in the summer.
Awesome, well we have loved having you with us on the beach today. Right now I'm going to make the most of the sunshine and go and look along the shoreline for some sea glass. Helen, what are you going to be up to?
Well, I'm off to do some rock pooling to have a look at all the different seaweeds that I can find here in our classroom.
Great idea, guys. So once again, thanks for joining us. Please do send us your work. We would love to see it. See you next week. Bye!